So the idea of taking emotional responsibility for ourselves is directly tied in with reparenting ourselves and not taking emotional responsibility for others. So let's talk about the vortex, the black hole of taking emotional responsibility for others. Growing up, having to mirror and resonate from my mother, how scared she was, had to reflect, represent how scary my father was, like that's a rage unpredictable between the two. And then it was dysfunctional to have to revolve around their fear, their need to instill fear, either one. And when I was just, when I was under 10, I just started being fearless and it became a superpower in a way, but it also meant I could not have a relationship with life where I wanted to live and not die and survive or not be annihilated. And so not only did I have to lose the experience of having a stake in living, but I also had to, needed someone nearby to carry my projections of disappointment, vulnerability, and loneliness, kind of like how my parents needed me to be a compartment for them to put their unwanted emotions, pigeonholing and making me out to be pitiful or a lost cause or a failure for someone else to suffer. So I usually had to have an addict or dysfunctional type of person who I would use for my inner child, my repressed self, to have, and to other myself, kind of, to have someone to outsource the pain and into someone else who I then help rescue and work on and guide, nurture, rather than just doing it for myself on the inside, the direct circuitry. And this is because of the early life training that I should put others first and feel dependent on others, the wellness of others, and for my own wellness and safety. In ACA, I learned about reparenting myself, which is the need to reparent ourselves. And this is their literature. The need to reparent ourselves comes from our efforts to feel safe as children. The violent nature of alcoholism and dysfunction darkened our emotional world and left us wounded, hurt, unable to feel. This extreme alienation from our own internal direction kept us helplessly dependent on those we mistrusted and feared. In an unstable, hostile, and often dangerous environment, we attempted to meet the impossible demands of living with family dysfunction, and our lives were soon out of control. I just want to pause and say ACA actually became known as a program for adult children of dysfunctional families. It's not only adult children of alcoholics. I just want to make the comment. Or it's also called ACoA. Anyway, to make sense of the confusion and to end our feelings of fear, we denied inconsistencies in what we were taught. We held rigidly to a few certain beliefs, or we rebelled and distrusted all outside interference. Freedom begins with being open to love. The dilemma of abandonment is a choice between painful intimacy and hopeless isolation, but the consequence is the same. We protect ourselves by rejecting the vulnerable inner child and are forced to live without warmth or love. Without love, intimacy and isolation are equally painful, empty, and incomplete. Without love, intimacy and isolation are equally painful, empty, and incomplete. I want to say it a third time. Without love, intimacy and isolation are equally painful, empty, and incomplete. Love dissolves hate. We give ourselves the love we seek by releasing our self-hatred and embracing the child inside. With a child sensitivity, we reach out to explore the world again and become aware of the need to trust and love others. The warm affection we have for each other heals our inner hurt. ACA's loving acceptance and gentle support lessen our feelings of fear. We share our beliefs, share our beliefs and our mistrust without judgment or criticism, and we realize the insanity of dysfunction and become willing to replace the confusing beliefs of childhood with the clear, consistent direction of the 12 steps and traditions, and to accept the authority of the loving God that they reflect. And I had a session with Simona Vivi Hadjigeorgalis, an amazing coach, about stepping out of someone else's vortex. And there's this thing called interpersonal neurobiology from Dan Siegel, where we think of the brainstem, which is sensation and movement, connecting with the limbic center, which is like over in front, emotions and stories kind of in the middle. And then in the front, we have language and words. So this brainstem and limbic center take in 11 million bits of information per second. However, this neocortex can only process 6 to 50 bits of information. So you could see what's going on, why there's a lot happening that we're not able to keep up with. So using our history-colored glasses to keep us safe and make decisions is how I would, like what we talked about before, emotionally managing the adults around me. So safety is all three are in harmony: the brainstem, the limbic system, and the neocortex. When we feel not safety, it's each part is working separately. They are doing their best strategies to keep me alive, but not necessarily the most integrated and appropriate one because they're acting separately without the whole picture. We can relearn through practice moments. We make new connections. They now feel like in the actual brain, and they now feel accompaniment, like my present and a self. They feel like they're not completely alone. And the practice is connecting, for example, with so we did a practice together, and it's a connecting practice. So I connected with that 8-year-old self that was coming up in that session, feeling like a purple tucking in under my ribs, curiosity, appreciation. Another version showed me, and that together with me showed me it didn't know I wanted to live. It wanted me to be afraid of unpredictability and be scared, because its job was to keep me alive, even with my father, a large bully who was threatening. The 8-year-old said, now I know, and she had big eyes, and so much space opens up in my ribs to my shoulders when I do this remothering, refathering, this connecting with the wise inner one, the wise inner counsel. And even when we go to me looking at the overeating aspect for the emotional, like the vortex, because then I would need to eat probably for that. I would say that it seems that I would need to eat to fulfill that, to find that fulfillment. And not feeling like I had to manage someone else's emotions, instead directly relate to my own self and connect with my inner child. So not like when I was not eating it or preparing my own food, it's, just for today. Like just for today I don't have to eat that food, or just for today I could prepare my own food. And also instead of I'd over caretake for others, I feel I deserve to overeat or indulge, because I was enabling and indulging others to have someone take care of them. So I thought, let me do more with the food. And learning to do my best and God does the rest is this idea of the being in the presence, which gives me permission to just exist, versus the feeling of being unwelcome or unbelonging because of what the other person's emotions are. I felt like I had to change their emotions so I could feel welcome maybe, or loved. And this fake positivity and false gratitude was another way I pitied myself and felt like a victim, versus that true sincerity of feeling my real pain and myself. Compassion for myself. I also sometimes noticed that I would get afraid of having to cook for someone else or share my portion. But actually today I made food for my mother, another woman, a lady and her husband, and their and she has 2 babies, so that's 4, and me, and a little bit for one person who didn't want everything, and one more. So I cooked actually for 7 people. And because she's nursing, you could say the 2 babies also are getting from that. And she has a son, so I feel like it's very important. And we'll end with the Lubavitcher Rebbe says that there are 2 aspects to the evil nature: the power of the animal soul and its filthy garments. The evil desires into which the animal soul's energy has been channeled. These garments cannot be elevated or converted. They must be removed and eradicated. I recently been focusing on just removing the filth from me. You could just practice for a moment, just letting go of all the filth of this world. The energy of the animal soul and its tendency to find evil outlets for its energy can then be converted to good by clothing it in clean garments, i.e. channeling this energy into holy outlets. If the energy has not yet been transformed into good, clearly some of the filthy garments must have remained. In devarim, Deuteronomy 21:21, it says, "You shall clear the evil from among you." So a complete tzaddik is one whose entire capacity for desire could be redirected toward only good and holiness. The person who is in fact eradicated evil from his heart, he's not only banished the external practical expression of the evil thoughts, words, and actions, these garments, but has eradicated the evil itself. It has no place in his heart. He no longer desires evil. So we could say in this case, the real teshuvah, the real return to love, is to no longer desire to change another person's emotions. Amen. Can you hear its own for all of us? All right, bye.